watching Medfield TV, community show.
The next 5 articles, Articles 19 through 23, are senior housing articles. I'd ask Tony Santori from the Senior Housing Study Committee to approach microphone number 1 or 2. How are you, Tony? Can I just get clear on the treatment of this? So we have 5 articles, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. I understand that we will not have a positive motion on numbers 19, 21, and 22. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're going to dismiss Articles 19, 21, and 22. And I would then ask Warrant Committee member Tom Mulvoy if you have a positive motion on Article 20.
Move that the Board of Selectmen consider the development of affordable senior housing on Lot 3, Ice House Road.
And do you have a report, please?
Yes, the Warrant Committee had recommended dismissal of the article as posted in the warrant, but the new wording, tonight, the new wording, with the new wording, the Warrant Committee recommends passage.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Santori, why don't you take this moment to talk a little bit about senior housing?
The articles that I submitted were prepared in early December, and without having counsel, I tried to put together a bunch of articles that would cover all the bases for the development of 2 parcels on Ice House Road, Lot 3 and Lot 1, the Hinckley property. I realized that some of these warrant articles that I proposed are illegal, conflict with different laws, but I have found in past years that if somebody tried to dissuade me from putting it in an article, I agreed and nothing happened. So this year I decided to put in 5 bullets in my gun and fire them off and see how many hit the target. I will say that the town, the Affordable Housing Trust, and the Board of Selectmen has moved positively on the Hinckley property. This amendment on Article 20 would focus on Lot 3, which has been fallow for many years. We thought there was going to be some development on Lot 3 for a sports facility or senior apartments. I think the purpose of this thing here is to bring Lot 3 back into focus and to recommend that the selectmen consider senior housing or apartments or something on Lot 3.
Okay, well, thank you. We're going to put this motion, Article 20, to a vote if there's no other comments or questions. Article 20 to move that the Board of Selectmen, yes, consider the development of affordable senior housing on Lot 3 and Ice House Road. Mr. Murby.
I think I'm the one that needs to respond to that article because I think I'm the one that's blocked Lot 3 from being senior housing. My reason for doing that is because Lot 3 is one of the few pieces of commercial property we have in this town. If we want to get out in front of our taxes and if we want to diversify our tax base, something we should not do is start converting commercially available property over to residential use when we have other places that we can put it. Having said that, I would absolutely consider all uses of the property at the point in time that I think it's appropriate for us to do that. I've been advocating for commercial development on lot number 3 for several years. That conversation has gotten balled up in a very confusing and totally counterproductive discussion in my mind at the Board of Selectmen level. So a few months ago, I basically decided that was not something we were going to sort out. And I basically said, let's take that off the table for now. So in terms of being willing to consider senior housing on Lot 3, I absolutely would consider it. But my priority for Lot 3 would be commercial development. And for that matter, I think it would be wise for us to wait until we've seen the results of the senior housing survey before we actually determine where we're going to put senior housing to make sure it reflects where people would like it. But I'm the guy.
Okay, microphone number 1, please.
Yes, Bradford Garnett, 123 Granite Street. As I remember, and I understand Lot 1 and Lot 3, Lot 3 we had already voted on in a previous town hall as Selectman Murby had spoken about as being commercial. I see a blob of Medfield residents traveling, including my sister and her children, to Four Kicks every Saturday and Sunday to play sports. I had moved to California. I've come back. I was told that there was going to be a Four Kicks that the townspeople had voted on, and yet I don't see it. Now we're discussing senior housing on Lot 1 and Lot 3, when Lot 3 had already been appropriated, as far as I can remember, as being a facility in which we're going to build a facility that will generate revenue for our town, and yet we all see that property taxes are the main revenue source for our town, yet we're talking about adding more housing when we're in desperate need of having somewhat of a balance. So I'm trying to get some clarification as, one, how is this even on as Lot 3? We already voted for it. And then from there on, if we're already discussing the Hinckley and that's already been put on, coupled with the fact that we've already voted to have this sports facility, I don't even understand why this amendment is on and being talked about. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah, Lot 3, very interesting. That land, Hinckley's, that was my grandfather's land. But that land is ideal for senior housing. That's also commercial, if anybody wants to know. You're gonna get taxes out of that. I don't know where they're not gonna get any taxes. Seniors pay taxes. And it's about this town starts to understand that. There's no free ride for seniors. And that's one of the problems we have, because we have to pay taxes. So I think when you think of this thing, just don't think it that way. I've been in this town since 1938, and there's some other people that have been here longer. And believe me, there's no break at all.
Okay, thank you. Last comment?
Excuse me, forgive me. I'm not trying to be negative towards or look down on older individuals or seniors. My mother's here. I'm not going to tell you her age, but she's not a millennial. That being said, all I'm saying is as if, and we talk about the state hospital, 160 acres, Lot 3, sports facility, Kingsbury Club that has already been built there, sort of makes sense there. And then why not have the opportunity to build double the amount of senior housing? Because I would like my mother and father to be able to stay here. That's just my thought.
Good. Okay, Mr. Sorrell, final comments?
Yeah, to your point, Lot 3 was put under the control of the selectmen for the purpose of ground leasing to a private developer. It didn't specify for what. What you talked about is one possibility. All this is an advisory motion or request that the selectmen also consider some other alternate uses. So it's not binding. The selectmen already do have control of the property and can ground lease it if they find a developer or a proposal that they find in the town's interest. There's a state process that you have to go through. You can't just unilaterally deal with a developer.
I'm going to move that the Board of Selectmen consider the development of affordable senior housing in Lot 3, Ice House Road. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, we're going to have a show of hands. So all in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. All opposed? I'm going to deem that it does not carry. Next article is Article 23. Article 23 is a petition to instruct the Hospital Planning Committee to incorporate more affordable ownership rental senior housing into the redevelopment plan. You can find this article on page 56 of the warrant report. Again, it is a citizen petition, but we do have a positive motion from Tom Mulvoy, warrant committee member.
Move that the Board of Selectmen instruct the Medfield State Hospital Planning Committee to incorporate more appropriate and affordable senior 65-plus housing featuring ranch-type condominiums apartments with price points between $350,000 to $500,000 and apartment rental not to exceed $2,000 a month. The warrant committee recommends passage as printed in the warrant.
Thank you. Comments, questions regarding Article 33? Excuse me, 23. I already crossed it out. Please.
Thank you. I'm just curious if there was any science behind these numbers. I just filled out a survey that's probably in transit in the mail, So this information that's up here, senior 65 plus, why is it 65 plus? Ranch type condominiums, sure, one-story facilities are probably a good idea, but does it need to be ranch type? Why the price points between $350,000 and $500,000? Is that something that was determined by a deliberate review by experts who are looking at what the optimum range should be? And the same thing for the $2,000 per month. I mean, it looks like a great idea, but it seems to me those numbers come out of thin air, and we should wait for the survey to come back and people to review that in a sober fashion before we make any decisions on these numbers.
Okay, Mr. Centauri?
Mr. Centauri, 27 Long Meadow Road, and I was chairman of the Senior Housing Study Committee. All of these facts were determined based on a survey we conducted of Medfield seniors. We had over 250 individuals who gave us their comments. These were the price ranges that people wanted. The reason we had 65, I think, is because most people realize that if you're 55 to 65, you're probably still working and you can get a loan to buy any house you want in Medfield. But if you're 65 and older, you're on Social Security and a 401k, you can't get a mortgage. That's where these numbers come from. It was a survey that was done. The rent is an average of apartment renting in Medfield. So there's a lot of background that went into this article. It wasn't pulled out of the air. We did a lot of work on our committee, and I'm proud to say we had a survey that cost zero. And the current survey that you see floating around, I think has cost something like $10,000, and you're probably going to see the same results come out.
Microphone number 2.
Ken Richard, 51 Country Way. As a former member of the State Hospital Redevelopment Committee, and I look at this warrant, and my biggest complaint is through lots of good effort, lots of good intention, we've had zero results and no progress on the state hospital land. Now I'm looking at a warrant book where now we have our 4th citizen petition, and we're essentially picking at the carcass of this animal that we bought. And I think through lack of action, we're going to get all these other proposals to do it in a piecemeal basis. And I don't know whether tonight's a night where the State Hospital Redevelopment Committee is going to come forward and tell us, where the heck we stand on this hot piece of land. But until, I can't believe we would vote on anything on a piecemeal basis while we're anxiously awaiting a full report from our State Hospital Committee. So in that regard, any of these one-off suggestions with regard to what we might do, I'd be strongly against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone number 2.
Greg Sullivan, 122 Green Street. I just want a clarification. Those are pretty hard numbers, and I'm just wondering, are those numbers to perpetuity, knowing that it could be a number of years before that 65 housing gets built? So those seemed awful hard and static numbers given where we are today.
Comments? Anybody? Put them up here. No? Other questions or comments? Okay. Sure, please.
Only because nobody else jumped on this, I'd like to respond to a couple things. First, I agree with the comments about the piecemeal decisions around the state hospital. I don't think we'd want to do that. I do want to respond in a little different way to the senior survey. There is a senior survey out. We're getting a tremendous response back in. We expect that survey is going to build on what Tony's committee did. So this is not asking the question looking for a different answer. It is asking the question looking for some more specific answers. The question around the pricing, I think, we took Tony's survey and used that basic format. It made some sense if you looked at the average cost of housing here in town, that if seniors were going to sell a house, we wanted pricing that was below it. So if you want the thinking behind it, that's where that came through. The survey, we hope, will give us the kind of insight that will help the town give seniors an option to be able to buy housing or to rent housing that gives them a fair chance economically to be here. So this is not meeting some hard and fast requirement. It's trying to come up with a solution to a group of people who have identified that they'd like to stay in town, but economically it's difficult to do that. So the spirit of this isn't like trying to nail down a specification. It's not intended to give a windfall to anybody so they can buy something cheaply now and sell it at a higher price later on. It's really trying to respond to a need in the best way that we can, given that we have some resources, especially with regard to land, to do that. So it's not quite as contentious as it felt a little bit to me there in those comments.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to ask the motion to be reread.
Mary Harney, 17 Maplewood Road. I just want to comment again about the $350,000 house range. I just heard a story about a young couple who wanted to put a breezeway on their house, between the house and the garage. $85,000 for a breezeway. How are you going to build a house for $350,000?
Warrant Committee Member Barbara Gibbs.
I just had another comment to talk about the senior housing study that hopefully all of you got who have somebody over 55 in your household. We use the census data from town, and we mailed that to 2,204 households in town. So as of today, it just went out last Monday, and as of today, we already had 250 responses. So keep your responses coming. I just wanted to give you a scale of how many senior housing over 55 that we actually have in town, which is 2,204.
Okay, Mr. Mulvoy, could you read the motion, please?
Yes. Move that the Board of Selectmen instruct the Medfield State Hospital Planning Committee to incorporate an affordable senior 65-plus housing featuring ranch-type condominiums apartments with price points between $350,000 to $500,000, and apartment rental not to exceed $2,000 per month.
Okay, let's put that motion to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I'm going to deem that the motion is defeated. That completes on our order of proceedings the provisions on senior housing.